Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Mark McNulty. I'm president of Action Coach Bluegrass. And today I have with me Jyre Richardson, who is the founder of From Here to There Multi-Service Movers in Lexington, Kentucky. And today we're going to be talking about his business, his journey to business ownership, and some of the challenges, best practices, and just share a peek in the life of an entrepreneur business owner and what it's really like. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe so that you get notifications when future interviews get dropped. So Jyre, welcome. Thanks so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mr. McNulty. Thanks for having me, sir.
Yeah, great. So tell us a little bit about your background and about From Here to There.
Yes, sir. So From Here to There, we'll be 5 in February. It's a boutique white glove moving company based out of Lexington, Kentucky. Me personally, I'm from Richmond, Kentucky, which is a little bit smaller town just south of Lexington. From Here to There came from pretty humble origins, and I'm riding a pretty good high right now because yesterday I just hired a weekend dispatcher. So I'm getting that much closer to my goal of getting out of the day-to-day office by the end of the year and focusing on growth and mentorship primarily.
So tell us about what kind of moving services you provide. You mentioned kind of the white glove service. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So residential moving is our bread and butter. We do a lot of furniture deliveries. So from consignment shops, we did a move for Ethan Allen yesterday. So I always say anything from a couch across town to an estate across the country. We do interstate moves as well, but that's a kind of a unicorn service. If you know how interstate moves work, there's 2 main players in it. So the only reason we have an interstate niche is because those 2 players leave a lot to be desired.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how did this business come about? How did you end up being an entrepreneur business owner?
Yeah. Well, I was a junior at University of Kentucky. I was a political science major, planned on going to law school. So I went to the front desk and I asked for the list of jobs, and I picked out the highest paying job, and that was for another local moving company. So I worked there for 2 to 3 years, and I picked up some practices, noticed how successful they were, but they had a bit of a churn and burn mentality. So long story short, I started working for an estate sale company. One of the estate sale clients gave us a 16-foot box truck that didn't run. So from that, I took that box truck and kind of ran with it, and that's still an integral part of our fleet today. So kind of lucked into it, and then the market, the Lord, community, coronavirus, all of those things kind of added up to bless us, because we started in February 2022, and March was when the world shut down. So people always ask about normalcy, and I'm not the person to ask about normalcy.
Right. Yeah, because it really hasn't gone back to normal yet in your world, has it?
Well, I mean, this is the new normal, not to.
Right.
Ugh.
So white gloves. So what is it that makes you different? What's the special touch that makes From Here to There really stand out?
Well, Mark, I'm so glad you asked that question. So we have a dementia-friendly certification. So that means our crew has been trained to identify and work with clients who have dementia.
Okay.
That's one of our reasons, because we do a lot of nursing home moves. Another thing is that we're also the only 5-star company in the state, and we're the only dementia-friendly certified company in the state. So those 2 things that identify us off the back. We pay our guys the best in the state, and the way we hire our guys is I have to do a lot of jobs for my mamaw. So if I can't send any one of our guys to my mamaw's house by themselves and assume that it's going to get done and have no worries about it, then they just don't work with us. And then the last thing is we have like all-inclusive, pretty straightforward pricing. A lot of the moving companies have a lot of hidden fees and things that add up at the end.
Right. Okay. So who's your primary customer? Who's your bread and butter customer? What do they look like?
A 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house. Here in Lexington, it's an interesting situation because they actually just stopped building starter homes. So the only homes in Lexington being built are $400,000 and above. So being that we're based out of Lexington, that's what we're going for. And then, like I said, those high-end interstate moves, a lot of those during the winter times approaching. So we've been doing a lot of those senior home relocation moves, because a lot of times we'll move people from their house to their kid's house, and then to independent living, and then to assisted living, and then to memory care oftentimes too. So we get to really get to know these guys, and a lot of times these guys will be on these same moves multiple times, being able to serve in that way.
Okay, great. So what are some of the ways you market yourself? Let your marketplace know who you are and why they should, engage with you.
Yeah. I was looking at our numbers the other day. We actually only spend 2% of our budget on marketing. So I'm not the marketing guy. No, I am the marketing guy, but I'm not a marketing specialty by any means. Most of it's just repeat old fashioned stuff. Being that we're hitting year 5, a lot of that stuff's kind of starting to compound over time, and we're seeing the effects of the work we were doing 2 to 3 years ago. But we do very little advertising. We're in a Real Producers print magazine. I generally stay away from print magazine. We got a great local SEO company, and I think we're paying $200 or less for monthly maintenance on SEO. So we're kind of just scraping by, spending as little as we can, and the money that we do have, we try to reinvest in our guys or in our facility. For instance, we just opened a gym for our guys, and we have a basketball hoop out front as well. So
okay,
that's where we try to push the marketing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about your team. You're in an industry that most of your competitors kind of turn and burn their team, right?
Yeah, and a lot of our job, I think, is a little bit of overcoming stigma for sure. I often make the joke, and it's not really a funny joke, that if we just show up and do a half decent job and we're not a bad actor, we're already in the top 20% of moving companies. And then the fact that we show up and we, all of our guys are up to standard and they all care immensely, that puts us in the elite among mountain companies, because, moving companies do just have such a bad rep. Earlier, I was talking about interstate jobs. I was alluding to 2 different kind of companies. There's carriers, and then there are van lines, and then there's just brokers. So when a broker gets your moves, it can kind of pretty much go around almost all the normal laws you would expect to protect from service laborers coming into your home. So they can kind of, anything goes. I always say it's the Wild West, sort of. So makes it easy on us.
Okay. So what are some of the things you do to, you talked about gym, basketball, so what are you doing to attract and then retain people? Because there's always somebody in some industry that'll pay them 50 cents an hour more, right? So,
Yeah.
Right, it's tough. So what are some of the things you're doing to retain your team? Because it sounds like you're doing things that really help you stand out so that you've got a consistent team.
Well, I hate to sound like I read too many entrepreneurship books, but culture is the main thing. We hosted our first inaugural ever, I guess that's what inaugural means, but we hosted our first extravaganza October 7th. We gave away 12 cruises to 6 of our guys and top performers, so they could go on they can go solo or they can go as a team. So that was something I had been kind of hatching. We're going to do an annual yearly contest culminating to a big prize like that. Most of our guys hire their friends. We have an incentive for guys who bring other good guys on. So again, being lucky, being blessed, having high standard, not settling. And then also, like I said, we also pay the highest, right? So we pay the entire day. And, the idea is that a lot of movers, I think, are not compensated well. So that's why you get those horror stories of rifling through belongings. And so I think that's kind of why we were trying to pour into our guys so much, because if we can take care of them, we don't have to worry about the damage control or the advertising. The experience speaks for itself.
Okay. So, when you look back on the journey, you started in an interesting time in the world. What are some of the roadblocks, though, that you had to overcome to enter in this industry and then, start to thrive?
For me, again, I sound like I might have read too many entrepreneurship books, but it's dealing with interpersonal relationships and, that growth of becoming the boss, but also still being friendly with people. I started this company about 5 years ago with my best friend. The most important thing to me was our Christian Queen is his name. He's in Nebraska now. He flipped and went white collar on me. And the most important thing to me was keeping our friendship intact. And I'm very blessed to say that, I don't know, what is it, 6-8 months after his departure, from here to there's afloat. And not only that, but our friendship is better than ever. And so is their company. So it's been, that was my biggest challenge. Of course, insurance is always a big challenge when you're hauling big trucks. But for me, it was just, dealing with my best friend and that kind of relationship. And then also learning how to lead without being bossy and then taking that next step from being a manager to a mentor, which is my current leap that I'm hoping I'm making.
So let's stay with that partner thing. So, a lot of people go into business with their friends and partners. So what are some tips that you would suggest to others, going to do that, to navigate that? Because I've done the same thing. It's a challenge. So what are some of your thoughts on how to navigate that?
Don't ask me. We started our business on a handshake deal, and it could have very easily gotten ugly. So again, I'm gonna chalk that one up to luck, sheer stupidity, and God. But I would agree with that. I've hired my brother. He only lasted for about 3 days. I love my mom. I'm a big relationship family person, but I've realized, generally speaking, if I can kind of keep my family and my business separate, that is always helpful for my business, it seems. So those are some of my kind of nuggets of wisdom, maybe applicable, may not.
Okay. So you are, and yeah, the don't hire family and friends. I'm a big fan of that, because it's just without really clear boundaries, it gets really ugly really fast, potentially.
Yep.
So what are you doing to develop your team, right? You mentioned you're trying to develop the team so that you can be more of the leader and, owner of the culture. So what are some of the things you do to develop your people?
Yeah, it's been a struggle, a lot of self-development, and then I realized that I needed to go get help elsewhere. I was able to hire a great head of operations, Mr. Lee Helmers, and the only reason I was able to hire that great personnel is because I actually had hired a personal coach, and I, was very adverse to it because I thought it was expensive and had never seen something like that. So all that being said, since I've gotten some help on, we've gone on to create some management layering. So we've introduced 4 or 5 new roles at the company, including some performance-based pay. And this performance-based pay is based upon if they train other people before they go out on the jobs. So every single day we're doing 10 minutes of role play at least, and then on Fridays we're hitting a little powwow. So that seems like common sense, but when you're a fellow like me who never saw the inside of a business and didn't come from the military, those things you kind of have to keep hitting your head against the wall until you're like, oh, this would fix a lot of the issues that I'm having. So intense training, essentially, I guess.
Okay, awesome. So, looking forward, do you have like a 3 or 5 year plan or goals, or, are you a goal setter?
Yeah. So we're trying to dominate Lexington, our local market. Storage is also going to be one of our events on the horizon. And then, once we get this model down, we'd love to see, if we had 3 places and made a triangle, gosh, I'd be so elated. But, at the same time too, when we talk about goals, I'm so elated right now. I'm so blessed to be in the position I'm in. So it's walking that tightrope of wanting more, but being grateful.
All right. So how has your leadership style, you mentioned changing as a leader. How has it changed over 5 years?
Well, here in Kentucky, we have, you were here in Louisville. So the last few days it was 60, 70, and then yesterday it just started snowing out of nowhere. So for me, I had to realize a lot of my leadership stuff was so tied to my emotions. And I realized that in the wintertime, that's our slow season. People get a little bit down in the winter. So for me, it's just kind of more getting to know myself, eliciting people around me who are not yes men and who can give me honest feedback, even if I'm not going to like it in the moment. I think those things, getting to know myself and then having mirrors and foils around me who are able to give me that honest feedback is really helpful. Might have been a bit of a micromanager, and that's the code I'm trying to shed. I think every business owner gets their baby and then they get it to a point and then they start smothering it. And it's like, so, I'm like I said, again, working on that transition. For me, delegation and accountability, which again, I told you, relationships was the tough part. So those are the parts that I'm still mastering as a leader. But pointing to the guys, telling the guys you love them, that part comes easy for me. I'll have a Christmas party next month, so always excited about that stuff.
Okay, awesome. So a lot of good tips in there. Really like hearing that. And the fact that you've been able to basically start it from scratch with a donated truck that didn't work, that you fixed, and you still have that in your fleet. That's really cool. And that you've built in your approach to. I love the way you described how you make your final decision on hiring somebody. Well, I send them to my family's house,
Yeah.
and be confident that they'll take good care. And if the answer is yes, then I'll hire them. If the answer is, I'm not so sure, then they're not a good fit for my team.
Yep.
So I really like the MAMA test. That's awesome.
It's pretty selfish on my part because then I can just mindlessly assign them, right?
Right. But it's a great test of, because that's what your clients expect of you. Don't send somebody into my house that you wouldn't send into your own family's house.
Yep.
Right. So I love that test and the way you described that. That's awesome. So last few questions here. So what's been your key to success?
You got me stumped here, Mr. McNulty. Hard work is just the worst answer of all time, but hard work, and that's what I'm trying to do, is leverage, because at a certain level everybody works hard. So my keys to success, I mean, empathy and the golden rule, right? That's what our company is built on, and I know that sounds very quaint, but that's what I got for you for key to success, is the golden rule.
Okay, awesome. No, I like that. So what's one piece of advice you would give to other business owners and entrepreneurs?
Entrepreneurship is just a big exercise in risk tolerance.
Okay.
And right now it's a little bit of a fad of everybody saying work for yourself, blah blah blah, acting like it's somehow greater than any other form of income. And as being a business owner, I can tell you I love it. It's fantastic. But I think a lot of business owners will tell you that, just like any other course you choose in life, 51% of the time you think, oh my gosh, I'm such a genius. How did I get here? And then another 49%, why did I do anything else other than this? So that's been my journey recently too, is just really own that and say, I could go do anything else. I chose this, so I'm going to put these boots on and wear them, gosh darn it. Okay. And if you're not risk adverse, then maybe beware.
Okay. Excellent. So what's a book or audio that you're listening to these days, you're reading or listening to, that you would recommend other business owners read or listen to?
Trying to think about one that hasn't been said absolutely a million times. And they've all probably been said a million times.
Well, even if they have, it's just reinforcing that, hey, this one's really meaningful.
I'm on an epigenetics book kick, so this might or might not be entrepreneurial related. Trauma, The Body Keeps Score, is a fantastic book. And then the book I'm reading right now, it's called It Didn't Start With You, and it's a look on prenatal kind of epigenetic stuff. So I know that doesn't have anything to do with entrepreneurship, but the more you understand life as itself, I think that contributes to your understanding of entrepreneurship.
No,
business,
excellent.
The whole deal.
Right. We're human beings. We're not just business owners, right?
Nothing in a vacuum.
Yeah. So I like that. So if you had one area of your business that we could fix or improve tomorrow, what would that be? What would you pick?
Well, as a business owner, I hope that I'm already working on it. Getting my books in order has been the big thing. I think my cop-out answer is going to go back to leadership stuff, right? I think it's going to be my communication and listening skills. I think if I could wave a magic wand and increase my communication and listening skills by 10 points, I think that would, I think that's a lot of human bottleneck in general. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be my cop-out answer, because I'm thinking and hoping I've got everything else under control, and I've got a timeline for everything else that's out of hand to be in hand.
All right, excellent. So before I ask my final question, so how do people find you if they want to engage with you, get a quote? What's the process?
Yes, sir. Website from here to there, KY, as in Kentucky.com. And then we're on all the, Instagram, Facebook, Google My Business, if it's even called that anymore. If Google is even useful anymore by the time you guys see this, we will be obsolete by the time, because of all the changes they're making. But 859-893-2602. Again, we're doing interstate and local. So if it goes between Lexington, Kentucky, which is pretty centrally located on the Eastern Coast, we'd be more than happy to assist.
All right. So that's from here to there, KY.com.
Yes, sir.
Everybody. All right. Awesome. All right. So my last question for you today. What inspires you the most right now?
My guys, 100% my guys. Watching them every day, you know, shining the spotlight on the guys and just watching them just radiate in that spotlight and then just improve every single day, like exponentially. And it's, especially once you've been ignoring something and then you finally give it your attention, and then you're like, oh wow, if I would have been doing this the whole time, like, so that's what's been inspiring me, right? Is a lot of our guys, we get our 18-year-old fellas. So whether I get them for 3 months or 3 years, it's nice to have that little hand in getting them that much more prepared for the real world, I guess, as we'll call it, and the new normal out there, right?
Okay, awesome. I like that. So, listeners, this has been Jyre Richardson, who is the founder of From Here to There Multi-Service Movers. He has shared a ton of good information. His focus on his team and having the right people and treating them right so that he has a consistent level of service that he can provide his customers is really, it's unusual in this industry. A lot of lessons to be learned there. So listen to this a couple times and hear the passion in his voice about his team and how he chooses them and learn from that. So if you haven't bookmarked us already, go ahead and do that so that you don't miss future. Jyre, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story.
Absolute pleasure, Mr. McNulty. I look forward to future chats with you, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And we will see you on the next interview. Bye for now.